always trying to decode what has been the strategy of AIM, right? How Bhaskar and team with just 90 odd members able to manage such amazing events across the globe. You talk about MLDS, you talk about Cypher, you talk about Rising. Along with that, they run so many parallel tracks, podcast, right? Then you have hiring, and then you have hackathons, not to mention about their letters which keep pinging our inboxes on daily basis. Imagine what has been their secret sauce. I think it's all about the pulse which Bhaskar and team is able to crack what AI practitioners are looking for, what organizations are looking for. Thank you all to make sure that they are able to light up all the lives of AI practitioners, especially in Bangalore, who can come and visit these conferences year on year, and they are exceeding excellence. Thank you. As AI practitioners, we also have a job to do. We also have to light up the lives of AI users, organizations who are our clients, correct? That's not has been an easy job over a period of time, what we have realized, right? In 2023, when generative AI started becoming popular, when GPT 3.0 came in, everybody was struggling, right? I personally spoke with almost like 117 clients, organizations during that period. They were all trying to understand what is the right mix of, you can say, players or agents, or you can say the legal teams, the corporate strategy, how they should navigate through the changing dynamics. It was not an easy job. Someone translucent, they had some plan in mind. They knew that, okay, because they have been using AI for quite some time, but there were some cases where it was plain opaque, black. We could not find any headway into taking solutions and making an interventions into their processes. It was a very challenging job. Everybody wanted to ingest AI, make an AI intervention, but it was not that straightforward. But we need to understand that any organization, when they are talking about AI strategy, the starting point of AI strategy has to be the business strategy. AI strategy cannot stand on its own unless it is aligned with the goals, the vision, the mission which has been set up by a business strategy. So we'll take a step back and we'll talk about that first. When we talk about a business strategy, the first thing which is very, very important in mind is that what is their vision? Where they want to see themselves after some time, right? Let's say 3-year plan, 5-year plan. What is their long-term vision? That is the starting point. If we talk about, let's say, draw parallels with Team India, right? How they want to perceive themselves. They want to perceive themselves as the best cricket playing nation. They want to have trophies, World Cup, Champions Trophy, and they want to win the love of the fans which they have, isn't it? That is what their vision is. What is the mission, right? Mission is, if I talk about organization, what is their mission is to achieve that vision. What is their game plan, right? How they want to achieve that thing, what technology partnership they want to have, what kind of investment in startups they want to have, right? How they want to upskill their talent. That is what constitutes their mission. Similarly, if we draw parallel again, the mission for Team India is like, how do I have a mix of, let's say, experienced players and have a mix of, let's say, youth coming in and then take the mission forward, right? What should be my game strategy around that, right? Those two constitutes a very critical part of my business strategy. Third is when we talk about core values. Nobody likes if they see India playing an unfair game, correct? They would want to see that everybody is abiding by the rules and regulation which, let's say, ICC has set up, correct? Similarly, if I talk about an organization, they would want to ensure that they are abiding by all the rules, right? All the regulations which has been set to utilize, ensuring that they are delivering the right customer values, they are keeping things very transparent, because we know that ignorance of law is not allowed. So it has been a very, very critical part of how organizations ensure that they continue to abide by the core values which they have set up. The fourth component which comes in, competitive advantage. If I talk about few years back when Dhoni used to be our competitive advantage, the cool head over his shoulders, how he used to navigate, used to take the games to deep and win from there, how he used to have a game plan in mind. Similarly, every organization have a secret sauce, how they distinguish themselves, how they want to ensure they are able to make a difference in lives and distinguish themselves from their competitors. Correct? That is the fourth category of their business strategy. SWOT analysis. What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? What are the opportunities? What are the threats? Right? Is there a player in opposition team who will take the game away in first 15 overs for me? How do I strategize? Do I bring in Ashwin to bowl in the beginning? Do I have a combination of Ashwin and Bumrah driving those first 15 overs? What is my game strategy to handle the threats which may come in while I'm trying to achieve my vision? That's a very, very critical part. And not only from a Team India perspective, but as an organization also, one need to analyze that if I'm making a technology investment today, how things may change very drastically. We have seen what all happened in just when DeepSeek came in, right? How the stock market dynamics overall changed in one night, right? So that is very, very critical that what decisions we are making over a period of time. Finally, the financial objectives, right? An organization want to ensure that they are achieving their financial objectives in terms of revenues, in terms of net margins, or reducing cost, right? While keeping the stakeholders, you can say, happy, and in terms of ensuring that what are their requirements and what are their expectations. Ultimately, as a fan of Indian team, we want to ensure that Team India is playing that they continue to earn the love and respect of their fans, correct? Obviously, BCCI have their own financial objectives. But ultimately, if I talk to, just to try to consolidate what can be the core of if I try to combine them, an organization want to achieve values for their customers, for their partners, and for their employees. So this is not an exhaustive list, but it covers the key aspects which constitute a business strategy. The reason why I'm talking about is that when we talk about AI strategy, business strategy has to be the starting point of it. Now, let's talk about what constitutes an AI strategy, right? When we talk about AI strategy, let's take an example of Kapil Sharma show, right? When we talk about AI strategy, everything starts from data, correct? If you don't have data, you cannot do any sort of analytics on top of it. That is the starting point of it. When we talk about data strategy, it talks about how are you ensuring that data governance is in place, right? What kind of data is being leveraged? How are you managing the access to the data? A solid data strategy is the foundation of doing any analytics on top of it, correct? Similarly, if I talk about, let's say, Kapil show, their jokes, punchlines, themes they are picking up, that constitute their data strategy. That is what makes the show live. That has to be complemented by technology infrastructure, what kind of stage setting they have, what kind of, you can say, lightings are there, what kind of orchestra is playing in the background. Similarly, an organization may want to have to achieve, align with AI strategy, what, you can say, partnership they have from hyperscalers, right? Talking about, let's say, whether there are hyperscalers who can provide the best-in-class LLMs readily available for them to be utilized in developing solutions or not, right? What kind of infra is available to the development team, right? Whether they are able to access it, not, you can say, navigating, you can say, organization dynamics to get access to the infra or not, right? Third is cross-functional AI COE. We always talk about that things have becoming full stack, right? We need domain experts to come in, right? What exactly they are looking for. Legal teams are coming in. We have ML engineers, application engineers, data scientists, ML engineers, architects. They all form the aspect of a cross-functional COE, right? For Kapil show, if I talk about, they are screenwriters, right? How they are, you can say, script writers or screenplay directors, right? How they are managing the show end-to-end by leveraging the data, the technology infrastructure they have in place. Fourth is responsible AI. I know we have been talking about responsible AI for quite some time now, and it's like everybody knows that what are the core principles, but still it forms the critical part. That's why it is so much talked about, right? Talking about how are you going to manage privacy, security, how are you going to ensure transparency in the system, accountability, correct? There are various key principles which defines the responsible AI for any government, right? Talking about, let's say, how are you managing and keeping a tab of what is EU Act, what they are talking about, what is, let's say, an executive order from US, what kind of guidelines or norms they are ensuring that has to be part of a solution when we are building up, right? Similarly, when we talk about couple show, we don't want them to make derogatory remarks, right? They are allowed to use jokes, but we don't like them if they go cross the limit, correct? When we talk about talent upskilling, I'm sure everybody loves Sunil Grover, right? But we see what he does on the stage, right? Whether he's trying to mimic Shah Rukh Khan or Salman Khan, but the background thing which he does to prepare himself to deliver those kind of, you can say, sessions or let's say shows is amazing, right? Similarly, for our talent skilling, when we talk about is how we are ensuring that our teams are able to access to the state-of-the-art technology infrastructure, or let's say talking about the access to LLMs, how they are upskilling themselves as things comes in so that they are able to deliver solutions at pass. What kind of competitive skill programs we have in the organization, right? Last but not least, partner ecosystem, right? Netflix, if I talk about an example, right? Or the movie makers who comes to couple show, advertisement players, they form the partner ecosystem for that. Similarly, in our case, when we talk about AI strategy, what kind of partnership we have from universities, what kind of partnership with hyperscalers, or let's say startups or third-party solutions, that all constitute the AI strategy, right? Again, this is not an exhaustive list. We have picked up some cases or some key aspects when we try to constitute an AI strategy. The reason we talked about AI strategy is that when 2023 things started changing, right? When GPT 3.0 came in and everybody wanted to leverage and ingest those solutions into it, it was not an easy job, right? I'll share some of my experiences, what exactly happened. 2 to 3 months were nice, right? We were doing some POCs, trying to see, okay, how the extraction works, right? As compared to traditional NLP techniques. We saw that, okay, how exactly we can do classification, what is prompt tuning, where exactly we are going to leverage fine tuning. There are some cases we were able to make initial headways, correct? But then we started, you can say, building solutions which will go and sit in a production. That time we started facing a lot of challenges, right? For example, I take an example of an order management solution. It's a solution we were proposing that time for a beverage company in Australia, right? What they wanted is that it's a plain, simple email comes in, you have purchase order information in it, you try to extract information about purchase order, certain fields, and then you enable it for downstream processing, right, with some human in the loop in the picture. It was a very, you can say, right, a lot of us have worked in similar solution when we are trying to do extractions from the content, right? It can be any sort of content, attachments, chats, and everything. One day, everything was going smoothly for 3-4 months. We were trying to establish, got an architecture approved and everything. One business person suddenly spoke, what if some of our clients are not happy to send their data to OpenAI? What will you do? And suddenly we hit a roadblock. Okay, now we don't know how to educate all the customers that this is how your security system will play in, right? While the client, our client was fine, but they have to also educate their clients who are sending emails and purchasing orders, right? Again, we hit a big roadblock. Luckily, we were able to navigate through it, and it took us 15 months to get all the things in place. And by end of this month, this is going in production. But I want to call out that you can say the battle or the dynamics which we tried solving in those 15 months, we covered various aspects. We talked to security guys, legal IP teams who wanted to be very much concerned about what kind of data we are sending to OpenAI. Similar challenges, help desk solutions. Again, it's a similar domain, but for example, this was for a manufacturing client, right? They wanted to have their chat systems enabled for, let's say, people are coming in, and they wanted to ask queries about what has happened to my, let's say, you can say, invoice, right? It was a AP help desk. Similar solution was for a company who actually sells domains, right? Web domains, or you can say portals. That's where they wanted to have a chat system because the transaction is very high, right? People are coming and asking that, how do I get navigated? What kind of technical challenges I'm hosting? I'm not able to host my site, right? They had multiple kind of challenges. The solution was very simple. We wanted to identify intent and entities, do some connectivity from ERP system, right? Try to understand context and take an appropriate action. Again, a very common solution which I'm sure many of us would have come across in last 2 years when we started using generative AI. But again, a big concern is the data which I'm sending to LLMs, are they going to take away this data with them? There can be some critical information or confidential information on these emails. What will happen? In fact, we had discussion with OpenAI, we had discussion with Azure also, how they are going to handle it. We were not signing NDAs with them on it. They had their privacy policy, which we respect, and we had a lot of discussion that how are you going to manage those kind of situations. But obviously, we had to communicate the same tune to our clients also, right? Get them to that confidence level that we are going to manage your data in this fashion with these security protocols, with, you can say, handling intrusions, handling this thing, but these were a very common challenges. One again, a similar challenge was claim extraction, which has PI information. It was in the insurance world. People are writing their information about, let's say, personal information, phone numbers, or like when they are filling up forms. Can I start using the data and send it to LLMs? Again, a big concern. Obviously, there are solutions where we can use, you can say, locally hosted, or let's say Llama versions, which can be hosted on a more secure environment where it is all their own ecosystem. But we still had that kind of challenges when we started using, you can say, cloud-hosted OPI. Knowledge assist. This was, again, a very interesting example. I'm sure all of you would have had a RAG pipeline working on your system. That was probably one of the most common thing. Everybody had their RAG pipeline who wanted to explore with GenAI, right? I will not go deeper into RAG, but the challenge was very simple. So this was for an healthcare organization. What they have is that they had their products installed in healthcare facilities. So if something goes wrong there, they used to make a call to CSR agents, the customer service representative agents, right? Now, these agents used to refer to service manuals, right? Try to resolve their issues on the fly. If they are not able to resolve, they used to send a field agent to physically take a look at it. It used to cost them almost like $650 per visit. Huge, you can say, leakage, right? Because every time if CS are not equipped to handle those kind of queries, there is a huge cost which they are incurring, correct? What happened is that the question came in, while we were able to build a RAG pipeline, we could show them that this is how we will enable your CSR agent. But a question came in that, what if there are hallucinations, right? Let's say if I am providing a solutions to my, you can say, customer, which is not right, which they are not able to grasp properly because it has been coming from the hallucinations, right? How are we going to control it, right? Obviously, we added a lot more transparency solutions by adding reference pages, so to give CSR agent more confidence the solution which they are proposing. But there is always a risk that if they propose a solutions to their end customer, and let's say the customer is not happy around with, right? They will lose the confidence, right? It's a serious concern on how they manage their customer experience over a period of time. Similarly, media monitoring, right? This was again for a pharma company who wanted to get all the data from, let's say, media, talking what in social media, or let's say, right, on website where their products are being talked about, right? They also wanted to have what their competitors are talking about their products. But again, a legal raise a concern that, is there a copyright issue? When you are scraping data from everywhere around, how are you going to manage that we don't fall into a trap of copyright problem, right? How do you ensure that channels are being established, correct? A similar solution came in when suspicious activity detection was required for a banking and finance company, right? So they reached out, they said that we had so many transactions happening at a very rapid pace, right? Now, you have some, you can say, transaction details also mentioned in middle, right, which is more of a textual information. What they wanted to utilize is that, can I utilize that information to decode if it's a legitimate transaction or not, right? So for example, it is not used for an illegal activity, or let's say a terrorism act kind of related activity. Can you decode something from the transaction that where exactly this payment is going through? Now, again, we had, you can say, a solution built around it, trying to understand that whether we can decode with using keywords, by using the context which is present there. But that time, the token limit, we all know, was very, very less. To manage the infra at that level, to ensure that we are able to handle those many transactions every minute, to raise a flag like an anomaly detection kind of a scenario, do we have that kind of token limit availability? So infra team came in, though we cannot support this thing. While you can do a POC, but when we have to put in production, This is going to be a very, very challenging task because we don't have access to such kind of infra which is required by you. So there are a lot of roadblocks we went through during that time frame over and over again, and then it became like a roadblock, almost like 2023 kind of December, right? We went through all these clients across whom we were talking about, and we were trying to see that how do we put a structure on top of it? Is there a way we can channelize all this information? Some way we had access to all the proposals which were drafted. We had all our notes which were, you can say, right, exchanged with organizations. We had all the Q&A we all filled, right, how the security is going to be managed. All the checklist which legal have given to us. So we had good amount of corpus collated by this time, but we were struggling to put a structure around it. So we all got together and sat down, let's take a pit stop. Let's wait for some time, right? This was something happening in 2023 December timeframe. We were able to make some headways, but we were still struggling that how do we navigate through changing dynamics at such rapid pace, right? So what we did is that let's start identifying who are the key players in the mix, right? Starting with business, right? Now the business person, what are their key focus areas? Their key focus are revenue, right? Net margins, reduction in cost. These are the key focus areas when we started talking to or taking a proposal to any organization, which is, you can say, as a main point, taking decisions to begin with, right? This is the first key player which comes into the mix out of all the patterns which we got, all the collation we had. Second thing was chief data officer, right? They have their own focus areas. What they wanted to look for, do we have a data governance in place? Do we have data strategy aligned to it? We have to ensure that there is data available for developers to make an impact, to do analytics on top of it. But do you have the right governance and supported by right data strategy in place? So chief data officer have their own checklist, have their own focus areas which we have to abide by before we taking into the production or any, you can say, mature state. The third is chief information officer. They have their own checklist or criteria. They wanted to ensure whether the data security is being maintained or not, what IT investment we are making it or not, what kind of technology alignment they have, right? So it has to align with the organization level strategy also when we are making things headways, right? Finally, cybersecurity group. Every organization have a cybersecurity group who want to ensure that there are security, privacy, and monitoring and logging system in place or not, right? They have to ensure that when we are designing the architectures, right, they are foolproof. Nobody can come in. There are security protocols being followed. How are you handling, you can say, key vaults are being utilized or any other mechanism to ensure that the keys are not exposed. What you are putting in Git, is it being exposed outside or not? That was, again, a very, very critical aspect or a key player in the mix which we identified. They have their own focus area. The fifth was operations, BI user, very much linking to business. If I talk about ultimate AI users who are actually going to utilize our solutions, they want to have an optimized solutions with, you can say, process with minimum defects, right? They also wanted to have a good experience when using the solutions which we are building, right? Again, a big say came in because they hold the data, right? They hold the process in their hand. And if we are making a change in their lives, they have to be onboarded as a key players in the mix. Infra management team, like we touched upon the challenge which we faced with the BCM client, right? Banking client, where there was challenge from infra management. Everybody has their own way of hosting the LLMs, right? Their own guardrails. They will not allow, let's say, a particular service to be enabled for us, right? What alternatives you have in place. So those kind of challenges also came into picture, and they became one of the key factors with whom we had to interact to move ahead. Legal team. Again, I think all of you would have struggled with getting approval from legal team when we talk about privacy, right? Compliance, what risk it has. When you are sending, let's say, a PI information or dealing with the PI information, how are you going to ensure that there is a PI information which is being intact? We are not losing out that critical information outside. What kind of expectations you guys are setting with your clients on legal front, right? So all those actually become a very, very critical part when we start signing deals there. Finally, a responsible AI COE, right? This was not there initially in many of the organizations. This started forming, or let's say evolving over a period of time. It was kind of a mix of legal intervention or let's say cyber security groups who were helping them to shape up what is my responsible AI. There were intervention or players like CDO or CIO offices who were also providing their insight. We also have to ensure that the key metrics are also in place when we talk from the business standpoint. So responsible AI again became a key player in the mix, right? So what we have established by this time is now, we were able to identify the key players and what are their key focus areas. That was the first thing which we did, and this helped us to put some structure and trying to identify what are their priorities. How should we navigate through? When we are taking a proposal or for a solution to be built in, we have to ensure that we are ticking all these boxes one by one. One more thing which we also did is that we also started building some frameworks, right? We knew that when we are taking a deal, we have to satisfy all these criteria, all these focus areas which has been established by these key players, right? Luckily, because we have been in this space for quite some time, we had some frameworks which we have developed over a period of time. We started modifying them to meet the GenAI requirements, right? For additional thing. For example, we had a roadmap design framework, which talks about when will they want to shift to a particular, you can say, an technology change. Or let's say they want to have a partnership from a different hyperscaler. When they want to have an AWS, when they want to have a GCP intervention, whether they should continue leveraging Azure or not. So that helped us to understand that what is their long-term vision and mission and what is their roadmap over a period of time, right? The second was very similar to this in a maturity assessment framework, right? In this thing, when we are trying to propose something, is the organization ready to take up that solution or not? Right? We may go ahead and propose a solution which is, let's say, very technology advanced, right? But for example, like a BCM case again, right? Whether they have the infra to support it. Well, you can build it, but if their infra is not supporting, the solution will not go through. So talking about maturity assessment, whether they have a strong governance around data, whether they have a strong governance around, you can say, their technology infrastructure. Those things played a key part when we have this framework. The third is basically your use case selection. It's a very interesting use case, right? There were a lot of use cases which were very complex to implement, right? So if you try to assess them on a scale, right, you can assess that, okay, this is a high precision use case. You need better, you can say, testing on it or better precision on top of it. You need a better prompt tuning on top of it. The second, if I try to draw another dimension to it, what is the ROI which I can generate, right? One is complexity, one is ROI. So can I identify an intersection of the two where by picking those cases which are less complex to implement, but they are generating high ROI, can I start using those kind of use cases and take a first stab? At least I'll be able to set up friendships with the different players which we talked about previously, right? That was a very key, you can say, framework which helped us to pick and choose the use cases from specifically from a GenAI perspective. Another dimension too is cost benefit. When we talk about cost of building, obviously LLM cost comes in, right? The infra cost comes in, right? The build cost comes in, along with obviously what are the overall impact of it and what is the ROI we are going to generate. So we had a quantified version of GenAI use case selection framework, which became our cost benefit optimizer. The fifth was in FMOps readiness. While you have build a solution, like we have to ultimately take solutions to a production grade solution as well, right? Where you need, right, scaling, monitoring in place, right? Feedback loops in place, right? That constitute our FMOps readiness assessment. And finally, a responsible AI framework, which was quantifying by measuring all those criteria and giving us a score. That on this scale, when we are taking this use case to a particular organization, this is how the risk factor comes into picture, right? Now, once we had this thing, we started visualizing them as tools, right? This helped us to, you can say, navigate through almost like 3 quarters of 2024, right? I mean, last year we were using it, we had some structure in place. We were able to take more solutions to production by using the learnings which we had, right? 2024, Q4, I know now all of us are talking about agents, right? I'm sure that if you look at all the presentations which are going to happen in next 3 days, I think 50% of them will definitely talk about agents, right? That's how agents is becoming popular, right? How we are going to leverage it. We took a stab at it, and because we are going to talk about agents in next 3 days quite a lot, I just took a one quick snapshot of it. What is an agent here? We are not talking about software agents. We are talking about AI agents, right? When we talk about AI agent, the distinction comes in. They have their own memory which they can leverage. They have their own cognitive power. They can perceive the environment in which they are positioned in, right? At the same time, they can collaborate internally, right? Two agents can talk to each other. And obviously, they have tools, right, which they can utilize to do specific tasks. They are positioned to this thing. So if I talk about AI agents, these 5 criterias establish how an agent looks like, right? There can be a lot more definition, and things will continue to evolve. But to begin with, let's see that if I'm visualizing an agent, it has a memory, which it can have, you can say, historical preferences, what has been stored there. It has perception. When we are placing it in an environment, it can perceive what, you can say, what kind of reaction which it receives based on the action which has taken, and how do I modify, right? Autonomy, right? We can allow them to take decisions independently without human intervention. Tools, right? Now, once this was established, we thought, why don't we map it? We had done so much amount of work in last, you can say, 1.5 years. Why don't we map it? So whatever players we identified, right? The players we were talking about, let's say responsible COE, or let's say CDO office, we started mapping them as player agents, right? We created them agents, we created them, let's say they had this access to some of these tools, and we mapped the focus areas to key metrics, right? We quantified them in a fashion that they can be used as for keeping thresholds on top of it, which these agents can take an action on. Frameworks became our tools, and client preferences became our environment. So what we did is that we started seeing, okay, we simulated the client's environment at our place, right? We thought that if I am getting this particular challenge, right, what are the key criteria, what is the key information which I have right now for that particular client, right? Can I use this information and utilize agents in a way that they are feeding and helping me to revise my proposals to make a faster decision and navigate through changing dynamics easily, right? This I'll come in a bit again. First, I talk about this thing so that you can relate to what we were talking about. So what happens is that when we thought, we started creating proposals on the fly through LLMs, right? That was just a POC we did. We had a use case. We had all our historical knowledge. We thought, can you generate a proposal on its own as an experiment? But it was not working out. It didn't give us promising results. We could not utilize the specific, you can say, the agents or players' knowledge rightly, right? We thought, let's break it into 2 stages. We create, left side, what you see is as a supervisor agent, right? Where you see this thing, the middle one, which has an element of a human also in it. It's like a collaborative, you can say, between an advisory agent and a reflection agent we place in there. What we did is that we also divided 2 kind of organization we are dealing with. One, for whom we have some knowledge. We have advisory team, we have some visibility of the internal structure of that thing, whether there is a CDO, how the CDO interacts with, you can say, your infra teams, how your CIO interact with infra management and infosec teams, right? Responsible AI interact with, you can say, legal teams. We created a 2-level hierarchical, you can say, this worker agent pool, right? We simulated this entire environment to ensure that they can interact internally, and they can also provide feedback if my proposal is deviating from what they are looking for. This was possible because we had some knowledge for organizations with whom we were dealing with, and we had visibility of the internal dynamics and internal structure. So this was a you can say, 2-stage hierarchical structure we created and simulated at our end, right? So now the way it works is that when we start creating a proposal, what it does is that it tries to perceive it, what proposal is it, what is the request which has come in, and then it starts interacting with the specialized worker agent pool, right? The tools which we formed that time, the framework which we had, we gave them access to these agents so that they can utilize the tool at will, right? It enabled them to come back with a feedback to the supervisor agent saying that, yes, this is the reasoning-based, you can say, feedback which is being generated using O1, and you to say this is being deviating from it, and this is being following what should be followed. This reasoning-based reflection on the left-hand side started helping us to modify a proposal in a fashion that we were able to achieve to a much maturity faster. Obviously, we have not used that in a very full-fledged application, but what we did is that we had almost like 450 proposals which were done in last 1.5 years, right? We took them, we created a repository of FAQs or a RAG-based system for them, which we made accessible to that, and we kept a smaller set of, you can say, like a test train scenario, and we started seeing that whether our proposals are following the same path or not, after, you can say, reflection and iterations, right? There was deviation also, where we could not succeed earlier, but we could see that it came back with this recommendation that because we didn't follow these XYZ steps, there was deviation in it, right? The second thing which we did is where we didn't have too much clarity, okay? So in this case, what we did is we used a planning agent, right? When we talk about a planning agent, we give them power to understand what is an ask is, how do we decompose that complete proposal, complete ask into your step of task, and then it has the power to plan and start executing through the pool of agent. In this case, we didn't have too much information how the internal dynamics exist in the client. So we gave them more, you can say, power to talk to each other, more power to interact, more power to come back with the feedback. This was not as, you can say, coming or converging to the analysis which we had the previous, but good amount of use cases where we tested, we started seeing that they are converging to a level. We were able to make sense that this is what should be done to take it forward and refine our proposal. Again, we did the same case. We bifurcated all the proposals we have. We took use cases, say that, okay, let's assume that this organization is very new to us. Where exactly we stand in terms of achieving this thing? And again, we got some headway trying to understand whether this approach can help us achieving to that proposal faster. As a food for thought, I think what we discussed today is about a non-trivial case where we tried using agentic AI, right? I know everybody has been trying to use applying agents in order management to try with RAG of, let's say, multi-model kind of scenario. But the idea of this presentation was to nudge you all to think through where all we can see where agents can play a significant role, right? There are non-trivial cases beyond what we have been solving till now. Can we see that whether there is a possibility of visualizing an agent and helping human assist for some time, right? Can we start designing our proposal in a fashion that we are able to make faster decisions rather than waiting for a feedback for a long term, right? Ultimately, if you see that things are changing, we don't know when we sleep today, tomorrow there will be a new LLM launched, right? How are we going to take a decision in this such changing scenarios? Can we have some cognitive power, access to the human taking decisions and make it a more seamless process, right? Second thing is, we also realize is that we have a requirement for a cross-functional COE, right? What we identified as our many agents we mapped individually. We thought that it may make more sense if we know what are the internal dynamics they have, right? They are very tightly coupled. They have their common goals, how they are going to mature together, right? The third key aspect is talking about human thinking process as well as the agentic thinking process has to coexist, right? As Jensen says, right, maybe AI may not be able to completely replicate a human, but what it may do is that it may have 20% of the job done 1,000 times better than what, let's say, a human does. So we have to start thinking that how do we start mapping them, augment both the things working together. Towards the last, I will just say that take this as an opportunity and start visualizing where all you can think of agents being applied. I'm sure that in these 3 days, you will get to learn a lot of things around agents. There are a lot of practical sessions or hands-on sessions which are being organized, where you will get to know that how do we create agents, what you can say tools, lang graphs, crew, what should we use, in what you can say flexibility we can achieve by them, what kind of LLM or reasoning power we should have in place. This whole idea of you can say new perspective on business strategy will also help you to let the feeling sink in and try to see that whether you may want to apply such scenarios in a non-trivial use cases as well. I'll take a pause here. Thank you.
I especially really enjoyed the references. Chirag seems like a big Indian cricket fan, just like me. Gives references of Indian cricket team, gives references of Kapil Sharma show. Interests exactly like mine. Chirag, let's come here for a little while. We have like 3-4 minutes. For every session, we'll do this. We'll take quick questions. Anybody who has a question for Chirag, just raise your hands. We have people with mics here. Yes. Can we have a mic? Yes, ma'am. Go for it.
Hi, Chirag, the session was really nice, but I had a few things that when
Sure.
you identified the key players, right? The use cases were customer facing, but in your key players, there was no role of the customer, right? In the key players, what customer will contribute in that CFT, I think if you could also think on that, it will be really helpful, or if probably under business you are considering, it's a separate thing. Secondly, with the DPDP Act, all right, what do you think that with DPDP Act there will be implications on this entire AI ecosystem? Because that asks for consent from the customer to use their data, and also the power to the customer to be able to delete that data. So with AI, where I think for most of the models, deletion is not an option. So how do you think that DPDP Act would pan out for AI ecosystem?
Thank you. The first question was, we model the customer requirement in business as well as ops user, right? There were two clear key players. So what we did is that obviously you can expand and you can say have one more player which you call it customer. But in our scenario, when we modeled it, we put those preferences coming from customer into business, because business was a replica of our client partner, as well as the ops user was giving the preference for that environment. So those two form the key part, right? Second thing is, when we tried modeling this, we didn't let the complete autonomous be at the end agent's end, right? We had interactions done, or let's say human in the loop at every stage, they can guide and take the right decision. We put some guardrails in a fashion that, okay, we won't allow it to go beyond, let's say, number of iterations to go in, right? That's how we were able to control and put those constraints which were specifically, you can say, mandated by the organization for that particular use case. So that goes as an input initially itself. When we put a questionnaire that this is what we know about the use case, these are the constraints which we know, and then feed it to leverage the historical knowledge. Obviously, this will evolve, yeah.
So that's a fair point, that you have taken business as a representative of the voice of customer.
Yeah.
But I still think that somewhere that iteration when you are creating those agents who are interacting with the key players, the input of the customer becomes equally important. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
And on DPDP Act, if you have any viewpoint.
Not at this point of time, but maybe we can talk it offline.
Sure.
We have another question. We have a sir waiting there. Then we'll come to you.
Hello. Yeah, thanks. Great presentation, by the way. I'm Pawan. I lead the AI COE for FISIV. Just one question. I mean, one of the things that we've seen is that, a lot of times everybody wants AI in everything, even when it's not required. A lot of CXOs come in and say, "Isme AI dal do." And I really like the fact that you talked about, sometimes, it takes a lot of tokens, it becomes too much costlier. So what's been your experience, going through these scenarios and telling people that sometimes a rule-based method is actually better than going for an AI given the use case at hand?
I think as AI practitioners, all of us are dealing with that challenge, right? There are a lot of push from organizations to, let's say, ingest AI some way or the other, right? But there are some times we have to take a stand that AI does not make a sense. When you can solve 2 + 2 4 by a, you can say, deterministic matter, you don't need a unnecessary probabilistic matter to it and solve it in a complex way, right? I think we have to take a right stand. It's our duty as well to educate what is right and what is wrong. I know there will be some back and forth which happen in this situation, but I think we have taken that stand at some times and said that AI is not making sense. You can do it using a rule-based engine and you will get a better results overall.
Before the next question, I'll request quite a few people who have been standing through the session. Very sweet of you. Thank you so much. There are seats right here in the front. So we request, please come forward. All the people who are standing at the back, throughout the session, you guys were standing. There are free seats right here in the front. So please do come forward, fill up those seats. We had somebody here in a jacket with the mic. Yes, please go for it.
Hey, hi. Could you able to hear me? Yeah. So myself, Vignesh, I'm a lead AI engineer from Ford. So when you saw the process and you were told we have to have the agenda of the business as well as the AA agenda have to travel together, as well as when you told about you took 15 months to have it into a production, right? The AA use cases, making it into a POC, it's a very easy task. But the exact task comes into place because you connected a lot of agents. And then the business, we are trying to replicate it. The process contains 1 billion, and then you replace that with a 1 million cost of agent. But if the accuracy is very less, then we are handling with a very high business process flow, right? So how you handle this gap? That's a key thing which we are trying to understand. Because all these POCs are very easy to achieve, but the production is what pretty difficult we face.
Yes, absolutely right. See, production is a very different ball game, right? Because that time actual users will be using it, and then they will be taking decisions to for the downstream processes, right? What I would realize is that we have to still start with a POC, try to see that how it will evolve over a period of time, and then start going in stage by stage, let's say adding complexity over a period of time, right? One thing which we also did is that we never started putting solutions into production. We went through multiple stages from, let's say, POC to MVP to production grade, which helped us to build confidence in the users, trying to see that how exactly it will span, rather than actually taking the first stab at a production grade system in the first go.
So just to adding to it, so you said that if we are trying to not achievable through agentic, then start with rule-based, right?
No. Yeah. What I'm trying to say is that if there is a deterministic problem to solve, you can utilize deterministic rule to solve it, right? No need to make it complex. But there are some solutions you may want to start, let's say small step, take baby step and see what you can achieve, right? And then start adding complexity over a period of time when you are dealing with an AI world.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Chirag Jain, an extremely, extremely insightful session. Let's have a huge round of applause for Chirag, please.
Thank you for being the nice audience. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chirag. I would like to tell you all that Tech Talks and sessions and a lot more have already kickstarted in Hall 2 and Hall 3. Definitely do check out those as well. But as far as Hall 1 is concerned, keeping up with our proceedings, up next we have Mr. Vikas Mishra, customer engineer at Google Cloud, who will take us through building AI agents from prototype to production. In the session, Vikas will explore tools like Agent Builder, Agent Space, Notebooks LM, and Vertex Reasoning Engine, showcasing how AI agents can be deployed at a large scale. Please put your hands together and let's welcome on stage Vikas Mishra. Can we have a round of applause, please? Thank you so much, Vikas.
Hi.
Welcome to MLDS.
Thank you.